Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art here in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, September 28th, 2018. And today we're going to take a look at the upcoming sales starting next week in just about 4 or 5 days in Hong Kong. In particular, we're going to focus on what Bonhams has coming up and what Sotheby's has coming up. Christie's does have their regular pavilion sale. It's a good sale as always, but I don't think it's as interesting as what's going on at Bonhams and over at Sotheby's. These two companies seem to have pulled in more interesting sales, I think. Christie's does a great job. I'm not knocking them, but this time around it's clearly Sotheby's and Bonhams, okay? And we're going to start over here. This is a sale that Bonhams is doing on the second, Images of Devotion. And this is a really, really fine catalog of a great collection of Himalayan and Nepalese, Chinese bronze and metalworks. Some of them are alloys, that sort of thing. But extremely early pieces. There's a lot of 4th and 5th century material in here. And right off the bat, they start with this figure here, which is this really fine Buddha, ancient region from Gandhara. It's a 5th, 6th century figure in copper alloy or brass alloy. Nice figure. It's about 11 inches tall and spectacularly well cast. And it's carrying a Hong Kong dollar estimate of around $15,000 to $20,000. So you're talking about roughly 1.8 to $2.5 million, somewhere in there for the figure. But it's a really exceptional example, and it'll be fascinating to see how that does. And then on to, let's see here, we have another, it's a copper alloy figure from Tibet, 15th century example. Notice the polychrome, the intact polychrome of the blue pigment here, the lapis used to color the hair is still intact. All the little turquoise figures, these multi-arm figures, the arms look like some of them are made of silver or silver coated. Just really a great example. And this one is estimated at 1.5 to 2 million Hong Kong. So divide that, but you can divide the numbers by 8 pretty easily, and you can come up with how much it is. But it's $120,000 to $180,000 somewhere in there. But just $200,000. It's a beautiful thing. It's about 5 inches tall. Some of these are big, but most of them aren't. Most of them are fairly small. But this one is particularly fine and really quite early. They made these throughout, but this is a good, very fine early one. And then moseying on over to here, we have another gilt copper alloy figure. It's also Tibetan, 14th to 15th century, and in astonishingly good condition. The condition of this figure is just amazing. The gilding is spectacular. It's retaining it looks like it retains nearly all of its pigment, all of its stones. Just a really fabulous thing. If you're a metal collector, you really want to pay attention to this sale. And this figure measures about 10 inches tall, not including its nice rosewood stand. And it's estimated at 2.5 to 3.5 million Hong Kong. Okay? I can just give them to you in Hong Kong dollars, and if you want to know, just do the conversion. It's easy enough. I can't do them on the fly that well myself, just sitting here, okay? And let's see here. And we're going to pop over to page 18. Oh, well, that's 118. Oh, page 200. 200. I work off of lists when I do these because there's so many pages I have to get to. All right, now on to this. This is a really interesting thing, and this is something you don't see very often, and it's carrying, I think, a very reasonable estimate for what it is. Okay, this is a Qing Dynasty Vajrasattva, all right, and it's made of rock crystal. And these are extremely rare. It's early Qing, probably Kangxi period, but just an unbelievably great thing of a Buddha sitting on a lotus pad. It's done very much like the bronzes or the copper alloy pieces that you see. It's 6 inches tall, and I think the estimate is very reasonable for what this is: 5 to 800,000 Hong Kong. So it puts it in at around eight times 64, about $70,000 to $120,000, something like that. And the coloring of the stone, the quality of the carving on this is just really quite fantastic. And I can't remember the last time I saw one of these in rock crystal. I really can't. This is just amazing. All right, and this is just one of the great things that they have. And then the Bonhams has a second catalog coming up, the Presencer Collection of all Buddhist art. And this one is just as good as the last one, okay? We have more of these fabulous metalworks, okay? And we're going to have things like this. This is a Vasudhara figure from Nepal. It's 14th century, beautifully done. It measures roughly, how large is this thing? They're not real generous with, there it is, 9.5 inches tall. There it is, okay. It's about right for that. All right, but beautifully cast and very early, a nice early one, sort of in the early part of the Ming Dynasty, and it's estimated at 1.6 to 2.5 million Hong Kong. So we'll see how that does, all right? But you've got to come over, if you're a metals collector, you've got to come over and browse these catalogs. And then you have this gilt copper figure of Tara, also a Nepalese figure, 15th or 16th century, 11 inches tall, but again, in wonderful condition. The condition of some of these pieces is just amazing. This is in beautiful shape. And bear in mind, these were used ritualistically, and the gilding on this looks quite exceptional, and the figure, the pose, the swaying of the hips, the casting, the way the feet are done, and the very complicated. This is a very complicated casting, especially when you look at the rosettes and the crown and all this work that went into it. And it's a good size. It's 11 inches. It's just a hair under a foot tall. It's quite an elegant, impressive thing, as you can see. It looks great under that light too, doesn't it? And now we're going to mosey over, and this catalog just goes on. I'm not going to go through I can't go through all the catalog. I'll be here for a week, but it's just pick a page, hit the scroll bar, and come to anything on here. All right. Here you have a Mahakala, beautiful example, 11 inches tall, also in exceptional condition, just very detailed, unbelievably detailed works. And you can read a bit also on the collection, the collector that had this, okay? And this is a Ming example as well, of course. All right? And then we're going to hop over to here, important jades, ambers, and hardstones. This is the Sotheby, one of the Sotheby sales. This is about a 60, 65, 66 lot auction, and there's some really exceptional pieces in here. And one of the first things I wanted to look at was this one. It is on page 18. Is this really cool amber Kangxi period lotus form washer. All right. But what struck me about this was the quality of the amber. There's a lot of amber carvings around, and sometimes they can be a little too yellow. They don't have that deep red, elegant, very, very lovely stone-like tone to them. This does, okay? And it's just beautifully carved. There's nothing wrong with that at all, and there shouldn't be. But and it's estimated at $19,000 to $25,000. But if you like carvings and ambers and jades, you really want to come over and look at this load that they've gotten in here. And one of the lead lots in this sale is obviously the cover lot, which is this chin-lung white jade catfish sapphire scepter, ruby scepter. All right. And what's really striking about this is the quality of the stone. The stone is nearly flawless in color. All right, it's just the same nice, incredibly even color all the way down, with the exception of one little inclusion here. Okay, and that's highly unusual. Like these, it's perfectly acceptable to have a color inclusions as long as they don't harm the appearance of the piece. But it's very unusual to have a piece of this length in one solid color. Okay. And we're going to come over here and take a look at the carving. And the low relief carving on this is just stunning, with this lotus in the center, and then and encompassed within a roux head frame. Just a beautiful, beautiful example, and it should do very well. It's estimated at $250,000 to $383,000, and we'll see how it does. It may do a bit better than that, depending on the strength of the jade market. But that market has been up and down lately, so it's very hard to predict. All right, just as an example. And here are two things. These are my two favorite jades in any sale going to be in Hong Kong next week. And this is a pair of Qianlong period yellow jade bowls. That's the color of these things, okay? Yellow jade in this color, and getting a pair. And it's nice and even. And these are good size. These are 5-inch bowls. Is very unusual. These are extremely unusual bowls. And just check out the color on these. All right, the yellow is beautiful. They turn slightly toned, a little bit orange here at the rim, which isn't something at all detrimental. And we'll see how they do. The estimate is $640,000 to almost $900,000, and we'll see how they do. I suspect they'll do very well because they're extremely rare. Sotheby's Hong Kong sold them about 30 years ago. They came out of a collection back then. All right, so we'll see how those do. All righty. And now on to this thing. This one, you see this piece of amber. Talk about great pieces of amber. Here's another piece. Kuan Yin, 18th century. Measures about 9 inches tall. But again, this is the color of great amber, okay? Not the egg yolk yellow amber that you see on beads, but this deep red amber. It's just beautifully done. And this figure is exceptionally well carved, all the way down, including this slightly darker base to support it, this scrolling wave base. All right, and you don't see pieces like this very often. This one's sold in Hong Kong, according to this, 1991. So it sold nearly 28 years ago, 25 years ago. Okay, just a beautiful thing. Estimated $128,000 to $192,000. Amber in this quality, and to have a couple of pieces of it in one sale of this quality is really quite exceptional. Really interesting. Let's see. Now we're going to go over to page 48 in your catalog, to this, the elephant. This is a white jade. It has that greenish white jade, Qianlong period elephant, carved of jade, with the attendants, the boys around it. The jade is in a recumbent position, and with that beautiful archaistic bronze form vase mounted on its back. Just a beautiful thing. It's about 6 inches, and it's estimated at $329,000 to $440,000. All right, I would sort of expect to see that hit the upper range of its estimate. This is a really great piece. We'll see how it does, but it's just an elegant, wonderful example. I love the boys on it and how they're positioned. Very attractive, of course. And now we're going to hit over to here. This is the last thing we'll look at in this sale, and this is the large white archaistic bronze form vase. Now, this is a 19th century example. All right, it's about 12 inches tall, but the carving on it is really great. This is exceptionally well carved. It's probably the early part of the 19th century, and just beautifully done right through. Excellent, and good color and good quality stone. All right, and big, and it's estimated at $329,000 to $510,000. So it'll be interesting to see how that does. These are beautifully well done. Technically, they're exceptional, but when they're not marked, they can be a bit of a crapshoot to see how when they come up for sale, because obviously the marked pieces, the clearly imperial quality jades like the elephant we just saw, always seem to garner a lot of attention, and those can be a bit tricky, the later ones. Okay, and then on to this is that Yamanaka reticulated vase. I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. And as you all know, it's nearly the kissing cousin or twin to the famous vase that sold at Bainbridge's back in around 2010 for all that money. It went for, I think, $50 million at auction. Then it sold through a negotiated sale in Hong Kong later for a reported $25 to $30 million. Okay, another one has been found. This is a known example. This isn't something that just came out of the woods. This was sold by the Yamanaka company very, very long time ago. And here it is in their catalog from 1905. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but it's this vase here on the left, okay? And we'll see how that does. The estimate is very reasonable on this for what it is compared to what the other one brought. Its estimate, I think, is under $10 million. But we'll see. I got a feeling it's going to do very, very well. You might, wouldn't it be great if the guy that bought the other one bought this one to make it a pair? Because they're nearly a pair. They're a little different, but not much. So check that out. The catalog is great, by the way. If you remember the Bainbridge vase, and you were sort of wanted to learn more about it, and finding comps wasn't that all that easy, because there are some comps in the Palace Museum, the National Museum, and all that. But people outside of China sort of had a hard time catching on to information about this. It's all in the catalog. So if Fabulous Familial Rose or the Qin Lung period appeals to you, you can just come and read it. They've assembled it all together and done a great job with the catalog. So you can come and check it out on your own. Alrighty, and now on to this. This is the Circle Whaley sale. All right, this is an absolutely fantastic collection. I talked about the collector. He died in 2013-14. He was in his mid-90s. He'd been the head of one of the big banks in China. He was one of the founders of the Asia Society. He was a big benefactor to his community and all this great stuff. And there he is. All right, this is a picture that was taken some years ago. But his collection, or part of his collection, is coming up for sale. And it is stupendous. It's on a par with the kind of things that we saw years ago in the Chow collection. And I think maybe some of his things actually came out of that sale. But there's a great write-up. There's some really, really, really terrific jades and all this other cool stuff. And we're going to zip right in here. Hold on. All right. I mean, the catalog is a little bit overwhelming. All right, we're going to go here, page 46. There we go. And we're going to start with this really great Yongluo. This is a conical rose bowl. And this has a good history of provenance, Blewett & Sons, all the usual suspects, estimated at $380,000 to $550,000. It's an extremely rare thing, these conical bowls. And again, you can come over and blow it up and get a good, clear look at it. Okay, with this new the new way they're doing their catalogs and the way we can enlarge them, you can now get a good, clear look at them. I think you can even blow it in a little closer than that. Yeah, you can. You can bring it way in close and get a good look at the way that the cobalt is done. Okay, and this is just one of the pieces in this. You got to come over and go through this catalog. It's mostly, it's all amazing stuff. And then you come on to things like this lotus bouquet dish. Okay, this is about 8 inches in diameter, with this beautiful, slightly greenish yellow background against blue and white. It's not a terribly big bowl. This did come from the Chow collection. He bought it from him. And the quality of this for the period is just absolutely superb. All right, this is sort of almost a Dasai enamel on yellow, just beautiful. And they did include a picture of the back of the plate. So if you're a foot rim buff, you can come over here and blow it up, and you can get a really good look at the back of this thing and see how it was done, and get a sense of the texture of the foot and how it was finished on the back, which can be very important. Also, you get a look to see how elegantly done the outside rim of this thing was. Just absolutely unbelievable. And now we're going to slide along over to, I think this one. Nope, that's the one we're on. Hold on. Next one. Oh, 70. Page 70. All right. Not 570. Come on, let's go. There we go. This is one of those extremely rare Yongluo period grapes pattern bowls. These are absolutely fabulous. And a lot of them are exported into the Middle East. And if you go and look at books on early Iznik pottery, you'll see that the very earliest Iznik pieces copied these with the grapes pattern on it. And they were done just slightly after these were first produced, of course, because they had to get them there. And the pattern was so popular in Turkey that the court ordered they be produced there in their own kilns. They weren't made of porcelain, though. They were stoneware. But this, you can blow it up and get a really great look at it. These bowls hardly ever turn up on the market, okay? They're unbelievably rare. So if you see one on Live Auctioneers somewhere, don't go chasing it. And this wonderful wave border. But this is a really, truly fine example This man's collection really only had the very, very best of the best in it. And it's estimated at $765 to a little over $1 million. It's 14 inches in diameter. All right, just an absolutely exceptional thing. There's a very nice write-up, too, on this particular bowl. And it goes on right through its history and finishes up over here. So you really have to go check it out. If you like early Ming porcelain, that's something you want to spend a little time looking at. All right. And then on to this. This absolutely outstanding copper red Qinlong Marken period flask. And these are based on metal forms, okay, originally. This was a metallic form copper vase, and then they made it into porcelain and did this very, very fine decoration on it. These are not big. This is only about 6 inches tall, and has a pretty hefty estimate in the high $300s to mid $400,000 range. But the quality of the iron red on this is very fine. There's not a lot of bleeding. Red, as you know, underglazed red was extremely hard to work with and tended to bleed out and get around the edges and make a mess. And this piece just came out fabulously well. And we'll see how that does. There should be a lot of interest in it because they just don't turn up very often. Okay, and then on to, let me get them all right here, because this collection is stupendous, is this. These are great. This is a pair of Jiajing Marken period Ram's cups, okay, Ram bowls they call them. They are very rare, okay. These are really, really rare. They do make fakes of them nowadays, so be very careful. Like all good things, they make fakes. These cups are about 6 inches, and the pair of them are estimated at $640,000 to $890,000. But the quality of these are really great. At a glance, some people would think, oh, those are Kangxi period. You know, they sort of have that feeling, but they're not. They're Jiajing. There they are. Okay. Nicely decorated, beautifully potted, too. The shape of the rims is just elegant. The proportions, always look at the proportions, is fabulous. And we'll see how those do. They should do very, very well. All right. And then on to cups and on to this. This is they call it an outstanding peach bloom glazed washer. The color of this, there was one that came up a couple of weeks ago in New York, you might remember, and they put a very low, very low estimate on it, and it doubled the estimate. I think that one was estimated at $30,000 to $50,000. It was had more of a strawberry look to it. But this is a beautiful red Kangxi bowl, and I'm assuming the color separations are correct, so this is the right color, and it's almost cherry red. This is just beautiful and extremely even. It doesn't have the speckled appearance sometimes that you see with peach bloom, but absolutely outstanding. It is Marken period, and kind of surprisingly, it carries, I think, a pretty modest estimate, $15,000 to $19,000. All right, sold in Hong Kong nearly 30 years ago at Sotheby's. And there's a nice little write-up on it, and I doubt that it's been restored. So we'll see how it does. To me, that looks like a heck of a great thing, and I'm very curious, all right? And then on to this. There is a lot of Yonglao, Zhendi, Zhuandi, all those early Ming pieces in here, okay? This catalog is filled with them. If you like early Ming stuff, you got to check it out. And one of them is one of these Bianhu vases, and this is with the radiating panel, beautifully shaped, nice soft glaze over the white areas, and it's estimated, call it $1 million, $900,000 to $1.1 million. And real examples of these don't turn up very often. This one was bought in 1978 at Sotheby's in London by the collector. Okay, he was a collector for a long time, which is how you end up with collections like this. And then over to this, here's another shot of the back of it. If you haven't seen it, okay, you can see both sides, and the write-up continues. All right, and there's more on it. And there's a peach dish. It goes on and on and on, and then you can slip right over to there's another Ming dish. It's all Ming. This is like not all Ming, but a lot of it. Then you have the Shendi Jundi 11-inch dish, underglazed yellow against blue, beautifully done. Just a stupendous piece. It has a tiny tiny spot here where the glaze burned, which is not a big deal on one of these due to its age, but it's always, you do have to look. And this has green and underglazed blue enamels. Okay, so again, it's sort of a Doubt's eye or forerunner of Doubt's eye. Just a beautiful piece, and it's estimated at $640,000 to almost $900,000. And they also share with you a very interesting shot of the side, because one of the great things about these, if you look at these, you can see how they did the blue wash, and then did the green, and then used a green wash, and you can see how they washed the colors over. Here's some areas where it's still white in the background because they didn't fill it in all the way. All right, and you can study these, and those are little imperfections you want to see on these, okay? If they're absolutely full and complete and perfect, you better be very, very careful. All right? And moving along now to the last one in this catalog is, whoops, hold on. This one, the Yangchen period, Marken period vase. This is an absolutely beautifully painted example. It's 9 inches tall, but the delicacy with which this was painted from top to bottom is just exceptional. And you look at the top, it starts out very simply with a band and then drops to the roux heads coming down, and then this sort of climbing floral arrangement going up the sides and then framed at the bottom. All right, and this kind of work you often see on early bronzes as well. And this is a really, really lovely, lovely piece. It's 9 inches tall, and it's estimated at 500,000 and change up to about 760. But superb quality. The quality is just so absolutely superb. And then we're going to hop over quick, because this video is running a little long. Sorry, guys. To the Spielman Part 2 collection. If those of you who have been collecting for a while know about the Speelman Collection, and they're doing some more from that. And this is one of those motherlode collections that seems to go on just with such great things. And one of the pieces in this catalog is this fantastic Zhundi Marken period Ming tray. Okay, it's about 15 inches square. But the quality of they actually devote quite a bit of space to the beginning of the catalog of it. They show the back with the mark, and then you go back a little bit more, and they put in some very fine details, enlargements. And if you come over and look at it, if you want to know what early Ming lacquer looks like, this is what it can look like. Just superb quality. It almost, some people will look at this and think this is modern. It has to be new. It can't possibly be 500, 600, 700 years old. It is. And this is how well they were able to carve lacquer. Just absolutely stupendous. If you want to learn about lacquer, you come over and study pieces like this, because it's fascinating. And they showed some of the models from which the decorations were taken. And this thing appears to be in just pristine condition. And the provenance on it, check the provenance, all right? Sold in London in 2007, but it originally came out of the David collection. And then it was in the Sedgwick collection. Then it was in the Chow collection, Edward Chow, and then Mrs. Virginia Chow, and then he bought it in Sotheby's about 12 years ago, okay, 11, 12 years ago, all right? And that's about as good as, and Pierre Oudry's book on lacquer talks about it and all that. That's about as good as provenance can get long term, okay? Nothing better than having something from the David collection, my goodness, all right? And then on to this. This is, I think, probably the best piece of Peking glass maybe I've ever seen as far as overlay Peking glass goes. This is an unbelievable thing. It is 15 inches tall, okay? As you know, most of you know, most Peking glass is pretty small, under 9 or 10 inches certainly. This is 15 inches tall. This is a vase. And it came, originally Alfred Spielman had it. He acquired it in the 1930s, okay? Qing Dynasty, 18th century. It is not marked. But if you like early Peking glass, or you don't know much about it and you want to see the best one there is, I think this is pretty much it, okay? This is an absolutely stupendous piece of overlay carved glass with that. They sometimes used to call this ground snowflake ground underneath it. But these banded landscape scenes, okay, with the horsemen and down below, and the child with the banner, and then more horsemen, and beautifully polished and smooth. All right, this is just a real, you know, throw the word around tour de force for Peking glass or Beijing glass, depending how I think sometimes they just refer to these as glass these days. It's estimated at $510,000 to $646,000. But if you're a Peking glass or a Beijing glass or a Chinese glass collector, this is like, you know, pretty much a holy grail for someone out there. All right, and now on to this, the cover lot, a really rare pair of imperial tapirs, okay, those animals, and they are marking period. They're about 11 inches. They're gilded, extremely fine work. And I may only mention them because they're on the cover. To be honest, I don't find them all that interesting. They're elegant, they're perfect, and all that. I get it, but they don't knock me out, but they're probably going to bring a lot of money. They're estimated at $500,000 to $750,000. So we'll see. All right. I'm not knocking them. I don't think they're nearly as interesting as the Peking glass we just saw or some of those Ming dishes we saw. But anyway, they are imperial, and sometimes that's enough to get them off the ground. Okay. All right. Now over to here. This is a great bronze. All right. This is a Kangxi period. Seated Amateus, beautifully done. It's about 7 inches tall, and sort of an over sky. One of the things you do see sometimes in Kangxi bronzes is the bases, the lotus bases, got slightly over scale. Okay, you notice the base looks a little bit big. You see that sometimes for some reason on Kangxi pieces, but more height, more elevation. It's got this extra band at the bottom, but a beautiful looking thing. Beautiful casting with very little wear. Okay, the wear area is good. The coral still all in place and little semi-precious stones, still carrying the vase and all that. There it is, and these straps coming down, and this beautifully finished off foot on it on the base, and it's estimated at $64,000 to $102,000. All right, it's not Ming. Most people would automatically assume this to be Ming. All right, I might, a lot of people might, me too. All right, but it's not. It's actually Kangxi period. All right. And now we're going to get over here. We only have a couple more to do, one or two more to do, because you can't finish this catalog without talking about this clock. The Chinese had a real fascination with clocks starting in the late Ming Dynasty, and they began to make their own. And they were a lot of them were sort of based on French clocks. And this is an extraordinary Qianlong marking period clock, gilt bronze. The Chinese were ingenious with the way they did the way they constructed the works. And in this catalog, they did provide a lot of great pictures like this. It's estimated in the millions. Before I get away from that page, I want to tell you what the estimate is, just so you know. $1.9 to $2.5 million. Okay, but when you come over here and you get a sense of, and there's a lot of these in the Palace collection. When you come over and look at this and you see the quality of this casting work, and obviously inspired by the works and brought in by the French. The French Europeans used to bring clocks to the imperial court because they found them fascinating. And they made great gifts. But the quality of work on this particular example is truly fabulous, all right? And they did, again, a great job sharing photographs of it. And you can come in and see all the symbols and these sort of rosewater bottle finials on the sides, and the way they did the archaistic relief work, and on and on and on. They even show you the works. The Chinese were able to make extremely precise works in their clocks, and the way they were hung inside the piece. All right, so we'll see how that does. I think it'll do just great. I think it's going to take off, because I thought back. I couldn't think of when the last time I saw one turn up on the at an auction of this quality. You see Chinese clocks around, but nothing like that. And then the last thing is this absolutely elegant Qianlong marking period ewer. It's a pretty good size one. It's 12 inches tall, dragon tail here, and the spout, and then this double dragon. They're sort of fighting over the pearl here in the middle, up here, handle, but in exceptional condition, really exceptional. And it came from a European collection. It was acquired in the 80s. And it was sold through Sotheby's about 12 years ago, and it's estimated at $510,000 to $765,000. So we'll see how that does. And those are the three major, those are the five major catalogs I wanted to talk about today. If you haven't had a chance to get over and see the catalogs that we put up, please do. They work beautifully, and check them out. Read these catalogs. They're just packed with information. And if you see something you have to have, go register and bid and buy something. All righty? And have a great weekend. We'll have the regular video up today as well. And that's it. That's it for now. And we'll cover the results once this sale is over. Give us a thumbs up if you like these pre-auction intros. And subscribe if you wish. You come over to Bidamount.com and subscribe there. And stay in touch with us. All right. See you all next time. Bye-bye.